Hello, welcome to the Candy Shop Show. You've joined the Diamond Network. This is February 3rd, 2016, the year of change. Well, we've got an exciting call tonight. Stephen Jacobs will be our guest speaker, and I think that we need to start off with the law of one, to bless those that are coming in, and we have a young girl who's wanting a read early on, and we just want to say the law of one. And Elizabeth, would you like to say that for us for this evening? And we'll just call in our galactic friends and for the good of all.
Sure. Yes, and just know there's a lot of people on the call tonight, Candy. You do a great job of getting the word out for Diamond Network. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you, because Candy Shop Show is a very good show. You guys don't want to miss it every week. But the law of one is the Trumper law, I call it, no pun intended. It's a universal law. It's not just a prayer, but it changes, and it changes our DNA to what, you say? The highest good of all concerned. So I'll call some beings in, but you don't necessarily have to. In a time of emergency or a dire, just use a little short prayer, and I'll tell you that little part that I say that you can just memorize, only if you just have that. So we call in the divine flame of living love. We call in all of our galactic brothers and sisters that want to participate tonight with Candy and Chris and all of us. We call in all of our guides, all of us that are listening now and on the YouTube, called the 360 angels that are assigned to each degree around the earth. And we call in all of our higher selves, our spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental selves. We call in a special guide, a special message for this little gal, Heather's 10-year-old little girl. And we thank you all for coming. And now here's the little part you want to memorize, because we are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. So therefore, in the name of who I am, who we are, and I am one, we are one with all that there is. We ask, and I ask, that only the highest good of all concern happen from the requests that we just requested, and for Candy's show tonight and all shows around the world doing from purity of heart to awaken the world and more. So be it. Well, that's not, okay, so be it, so it is, and thank you that this is done. Now let me just do the real short part so you guys can memorize it. It is, we are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. So therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all that there is, I ask that only the highest good of all concern happen. So be it, so it is, and thank you. And please, this is the most important part. Maybe it's not, because it'll happen anyway. Just have faith and believe from then on your prayer is answered for the highest good of all concerned, and just keep thanking that process as you go along in your life. Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. It's good. The Candy Shop Show, this is sweet things, sweet spiritual truths, sweet communications with our galactic brothers and sisters and those here. And it's always good to use the law of one for the highest good of all concerned. And so if someone needs to respond, they need to do a *6, and if Heather and her daughter would like to do a *6 and say hello, you're welcome to do that right now. And Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We're waiting to hear from Indiana.
Okay, I think we're here. Are we here?
I hear you.
I don't know. Are you here? I don't know.
We have arrived.
Would your daughter say hello?
Hi.
Hello.
So, what would you like to know your guide's name?
Yes.
All right. Let's see here. Let me look. Roundy. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is going to be a good one. It looks like there is a gnome around you. I can see like a little a hairy guy walking around with big ears, and it looks like it's a gnome. And I'll make sure it's a gnome. Okay, yeah, it's a gnome, and he's saying his name is I'll see if I can get this down. All right. Yeah, he says his name. I'll just spell it first. It's Laemard. Laemard, he calls himself. And he's saying, he says he comes to you in dreams and he plays with you a lot. That he would be mistaken for an imaginary friend. And he says, tell her that she is loved and I will play with her forever.
You said he's gnome?
Yeah, he's a gnome. Yeah, let me see if he has. Okay, yeah, I see him walking around. Both you, Heather, and her, and he's kind of just dancing around in a circle. And he is. There's also a couple other beings around there that look like they play with you too. They look kind of gnome-ish. They're kind of similar, but this Laemard is the main one. Let's see. Yes, there's at least 3 gnomes. It looks like, or gnome-like beings, and it looks like this. Oh, this Laemard says it's his children that's around him. That I'm seeing. I'm seeing smaller ones, and that's his kids. So it looks like they have a little home that's outside in the yard.
Which area of the yard?
Anywhere there's a tree stump or pile of rocks.
Oh, there's plenty of those around.
They can disguise their homes as just like rocks or tree stumps, and they're in 5th density.
She said that's where her clubhouse is?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you, Tripp.
Yes, thank you, Keith.
That's cool.
With your gnome guides.
Yeah.
That is just really cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to move into the candy shop candy jar segment, and afterwards, if there's one other person, we might have time for a quick read, like Heather's family got in Indiana. Okay. Gosh, candy jar treats. I'm always encouraging people to listen to Benjamin Fulford. As we said on the Monday night call, he's every Tuesday morning. You can find him on YouTube, and he's been very interesting the last 2 or 3 weeks as he gives the facts, and then through Chris and others, we can find out some of the things that are happening in the unseen world to help humanity in this time of transition and getting ready for disclosure. it's just really interesting. I was going to talk about the media a little bit and the various stations like ABC and CBS, etc. We've been told that after the event that newscasters and news broadcasters are going to have to tell the truth, that we're not going to be bombarded with this brainwashing. And of all things, I just learned a few minutes ago, as I was getting ready for this report, that the chairman of the CBS resigned today. That is a big hallelujah. Sumner Redstone resigns as the CBS executive chairman. He has he's been there a long time, and been part of the brainwashing thing. I've been noticing that CBS is doing a little bit better, and than some of the other shows, and so it is interesting that the chairman has resigned, and maybe that'll be opening up the way for a more honest executive of CBS, maybe a galactic. Oh, well, there's a lot of crazy things going on around the world. Vietnam.
Hey, Candy, that was me hired as executive CBS.
Okay.
I'm changing the name to Diamonds Network. And I'm going to hire you guys.
Oh, good. Oh, gosh. Weather is crazy. It's snowing in Vietnam. Remember, our guys were just always melting there, and now it's snowing in Vietnam and Lagos. And the crops are all being destroyed as things are changing, and let's see, the temperatures are unbelievable. It's 55 degrees Fahrenheit in the Arctic. There has been so many fish die. The North Sea whale death toll has reached 28 along the German coast. There's all these unusual, mysterious booms in Florida. A man living in St. James Island on Pine Island is wondering what's causing his house to shake violently and all the noises. There's a big fireball over the northern U.S. On Monday. More than 110 witnesses have reported seeing a large earth-raising fireball over Wisconsin and Michigan about 6:30 p.m. Down in the southern hemisphere, it's just unbelievable what's going on there with the weather, and we're wondering why is President Barack ordering all these new and renovated buildings in the New Madrid area to be equipped with the latest disaster equipment. But we've heard on this show that the Galactics are trying to close the fissures and slow down the earthquakes as much as possible. So it's just unbelievable, the strange animal behavior. The Gulf of Alaska seabird is dying off, and we heard on the news today. I mean, there's so many problems with air flights, and of course that poor man was blown out of the plane today. And was it really a bomb, or was it more the Earth kind of getting things cleaned out? There was a helicopter crash in Lagos and today, and there was Austrian tourists died in a plane crash also in South Africa, and so it just goes on and on. Of course, the stock market's going down and going crazy, and as we've heard on Benjamin, they're changing the place where the gold prices are set from London to Shanghai. So got a lot in the news, a lot to watch, and of course it was interesting that Clinton and Bernie tied on Monday in Iowa, and that Bernie was invited to the White House for a visit. And then, of course, Trump and Cruz are neck and neck. And the interesting Senator Rand Paul, he got a vote, a delegate in Iowa, so he will be nominated from the floor of the convention if we have conventions. There's been some hints on some of the Diamond Network shows that it's all going to be changed and different and more honest come November 2016. Well, that's a little bit from the candy jar segment, and I would like I got so much to cover, but if there's somebody new that would like to that hasn't had a short reading from Chris about their guides, that would like to do a star 6 and come in and ask Chris to do a quick reading now. Well,
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, it's Diane.
It's Diane?
Yes.
And has Chris told you the name of your guide?
No, I was curious to find out who my spiritual guide might be.
Okay. Chris, this is Diane from Tennessee.
Oh, hello,
Yes.
Diane.
Hey, Chris.
All right, we'll see who your guide is. And as soon as, let me see, as soon as I looked at you, there was this guide that popped up that was bluish colored. You know, he's kind of blurry, so I'm going to see what race this is. And I was just told Syrian. They're usually blue, so that's a good indicator. Blue and purple. Let me see. Long blue hair coming out the top. I rarely see them with colored hair. They usually have dark hair or blonde hair, but this one has blue hair and is very almost like and pixie-like in feel. But she female Syrian is large and can looks like can turn into a larger being if need be, or a smaller being. And right now I'm seeing her as a smaller being. I'm going to see if this is a Syrian star being or a littler version known as an elf teen. I'm going to see if that's I was right on the second account. It's an elf teen. And let me see. Just like there's the race called Elephantine, there's Elf Teen as well. So let me see here. And looks like there is a second guide showing up too. It looks like there's two of them working in conjunction here. I'm just seeing faces looking at me. One looks like a little elephant, and the other one looks like a little elf. And it looks like they're friends, and it looks like they are small. They almost look like cartoon characters. And I'm going to see what their names are. A elf teen woman is named let's see if I can pronounce this. Okay, Liev is her name, and that's Liev. And the other guy, who is also female, is an elephantine. Female. And her name is let's see. Let's see. Her name is Myrma. 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 And let me see here. Yeah, it looks like they keep your home cleansed of like negative entities and such. And they are, let me see. This Liev kind of reminds me of almost of like a wishing troll, one of those like troll dolls, with the colored hair. And this Mirama just looks kind of like a wishing troll, but with an elephant face, because it looks like she has hair too. Let's see. They almost are very cartoonish. They're very cartoonish looking. They're almost like they've been drawn or animated. Yeah, some beings from Sirius of the higher densities kind of look that way because they have a lot of light around them. And yeah, they're very fairy-like and pixie-like, and it looks like there are several others around your home, like building a barrier of some sort. But it looks like they're constructing something. Yeah, it's like they're coming. Some of them are coming out of the ground, and other ones are like coming from space. And like there's a portal, big blue portal nearby, like a crack that they're coming out of. And it looks like they're kind of flying around. It looks like they have the ability to fly. Elf teens usually don't. They don't have wings usually, but these guys have wings. The elf teens usually can hover with their energy. They don't really have wings like, say, Michael would, but these guys do. And it looks like you have a lot of protection coming in around your home. It's like they're preparing for something really large, because they're filling like a neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, is that helpful, Diane?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes. It's reassuring to know I've got a lot of protection, or we do around this neighborhood anyway.
Well, that's great. Well,
thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, no problem,
folks,
Dan.
Chris, that's just a quick little sample of some of the information that Chris shares in his 1 hour long readings when you schedule one with him privately. So great. You mentioned a couple of new races to me, the Elephantines and the Elf Teens. I wondered, Chris, if you could just quickly name off some of the races that you deal with. And one reason I'm asking this is because somebody that's been on this call and has been to several of my talks was referring to an ETs, and she thought that all ETs looked like the Greys. And then I had to tell her, well, no, there's lots of different races that are coming to help us besides the Greys. And so go ahead and name some of them for us, Chris, and review.
Okay. The Elephantine race would be kind of like George with the elephant head, or Ganesh. And the elf teens are a smaller version of a race I talk to quite often called the Syrian Star Beings. They're from the Sirius system, but they're also from an alternate timeline. They're blue and they have pointed ears, and they kind of look like Spock from Star Trek. And it's my belief that's where they got that from. And so there's another race that they call themselves not just elf, but it's alv with an A, alves. And they I rarely hear from them. They're from the Sirius system as well. They're teal green color, and they have pointed ears. They like to explore space quite a bit. They usually have like a manned crew of like 3 or 4 beings on a spaceship, and they go off in some direction and fly around. I run into them periodically. And then I'm trying to think who else. Then of course the Anunnaki. I deal with them quite a bit. The elongated skull people. And then of course the Jinn I find around people. One of the more negative ones. They look like partial energy, partial matter, and they have like a face with like pointed ears and horns and such. And then of course the Draco reptilians run into periodically. And there are several other races. Like there was a race I ran into on the show once that was just a single eyeball, And then, there's some noise in the background there. Okay.
Yes, someone forgot to star 6 and mute themselves again.
But anyhow, there was also another race I ran into that they are just nothing but like a large head with like an energy pattern around them. They called themselves the Crenosians. And then there was of course the Anakim. They're the Bigfoot people. And there's a similar race of larger Bigfoots. These are like 50-foot high beings. They call themselves the Kreestar of Tamok. I ran into them. I rarely run into them. And then there was another race called the Karnak. They're very much like the Syrians, but they're all female. They're an entire race of female beings. And there's a ton of other beings. There's another Sasquatch type race I ran into that just nicknamed themselves the Cavemen. They hang out around the moon and in rainforests and such here on Earth. They have a section cordoned off on the moon for them. There was one that I brought through on Ross Speaks by the name of Fortus. He's in one of the Ross Speaks episodes. There's another species called the Dugwang. They are a race of students and teachers that come in to both teach us and learn from us. They kind of have these diamond-shaped or triangular-shaped heads, and they're probably about maybe 3 feet high. And they have their set of neighbors that they were quarreling with that look similar to them, but only they have like these large golden helmets, and they have a red furry body. I cannot remember the name of that race for the life of me, but there's also...
What was the name of the race of the teachers with the triangular head?
They're called the Dugwang. And they're a very kind race. There's not a malevolent one among them. They're very sensitive to energy fields. They're very kind beings. They like to teach people and learn from people. I rarely run into them. And then you have gnomes and leprechauns that I see quite frequently, like Brimble the leprechaun. He's one of my guides. There's also, I'm trying to think, there are other races of gnome-type beings like the Grimpa. They come from the Cirrus system. They can get agitated really quickly. Like if you call them the wrong name, I called them gnomes once, and they became insulted very quickly. They can be kind. They can be very kind and benevolent, but just don't cross them because they get very agitated. Then they're also quite naughty too. They like to watch people when they're bathing and all that other stuff. So I always try to stop them from doing that when I come across them. But So
that's group. And now, are there any gnomes, gremlins, archons that are not very friendly?
Oh, yes. Like the archons themselves. That's another species I ran into. They call themselves the Lancaneers. I spoke about them on the Million Year History episode here on the Candy Shop show. They come from originally the sector of space they told me they came from was the Zeta Reticuli sector along with the Greys. And the Greys messed up their home world. So they were forced to move to the Arcturus star system. And they call that star, they didn't call it Arcturus. They called it Lis, I believe, L-I-S, or Lin, L-I-N. I have to look it up again. It's one of those two, or I more than likely mispronounced it. But they are also interpreted as tall whites out at Nellis Air Force Base, that you hear the stories about the tall whites out at Nellis Air Force Base. I found out those are archons.
So there are some archons and Lincolneers that did not accept the law of one as yet?
There are a few I've run, some isolated pockets that didn't. Most of them have followed Tyler's people into the big federation out there, the big alliance that's out there, but there are isolated pockets of archons that I've found that are still in their corrupted stage, and I've had to find them one by one.
Now what about the Zetas? Have the Zetas accepted the law of one?
The flesh and blood ones have. There are some machine ones out there that Michael and his people have been trying to go after. But it looks like the majority of the flesh and blood Greys or Zetas have accepted the law of one because they don't want to be in the fight anymore. They just want to stop whatever it is they're doing, and they want to be good. And I've yet to run into a flesh one that's bad anymore.
And has this been just recent in the last 6 months, like it was for the Dracos?
Yes. The Draco actually turned good quicker than the Greys did. Greys took some work, so did the insectoids. But they eventually came around. Bugnassi and his people helped some of the other insectoids out. I'll run across a rogue insectoid and a rogue Grey every now and again, but they're not as near as a big a problem as they were 6 months ago. Yes. I just so appreciated the Diamond Network and our fans helping you help so many throughout our solar system. Oh, it's just wonderful. And people don't understand if they've been reading material on YouTube or something from a year ago that these Dracos and Archons and reptilians have come to the good side so much as we're getting ready to go into disclosure and eventually first contact. Well, I know there are, so you certainly prove the point in your descriptions and your names, and I'm starting to make a 3x5 card for these different races, and as we learn a little bit more about them, and we want to be friends with them, and we'll be visiting their different types of spaceships. There's places on the internet that show 50 different styles of spaceships and which kind of species are connected with them, and these are good things to learn and research and know about our neighbors and who's going to be our friends. We were talking earlier, just before the show started, about doing some healing work, and I for our friend Sunny, and I understand that there's although this Zika virus coming from so-called mosquitoes out of Mexico and Brazil is like a false flag, and it's interesting that on our show, even before we heard about the Zika and their mosquitoes, Chris was saying that there were these little tiny machine-like creatures, bugs and stuff, that weren't really a problem, and it was just like the cabal's effort to do the fake plagues. But there does appear to be, Chris, a serious epidemic in Western Africa right now with the Lassa fever. Lassa fever is supposed to be caught when you're cleaning up in your home and you come in contact with some rat feces. So I was wondering, could we ask the Galactics or anything about Lassa fever, and can we send any healing to our friends in Africa in regards to this? Yes. Let me see who's with us so that I can answer that. The one that showed up, the only one standing with me right now is Mythastor. He's the voice for the Mythastor clan, or the Mists of Avatar, and his group shows up when there is a heavy imbalance somewhere in the world, somewhere within an individual. Something that could, tip the scales one way or the other. So this is actually very prophetic that you brought up this fever, and then the Mythastor. As soon as you started mentioning this sickness, Mythastor was the one that walked in the door. So let me see what he has to say here. And the Mists of Avatar are very powerful. They're the ones that cleanse land and cleanse sickness. So I'm going to, he's really coming in strong here. So I'll let him take it from here. He's saying, "Greetings, my dear friends. I am Mythastor of the Mythastor clan," as this one says, "of the mists of Avatar, and I wish to address this particular imbalance you have stated within the continent of Africa and all countries therein. There lies deep within the African soil an ancient bug, as you say, that exists as part of the ancient dirt. Prior to more of the newer earth cover the old, this bug existed prior to the Great Flood, and it has now risen from the ashes like a phoenix rising from the ashes. These bugs come through as worms, but then transform into a different kind of fly. The people see these worms as something to eat, but they turn quickly into something that is deadly. This is not a cabal trick. This is not of the sort you are thinking. This only pleases the cabal, that they do not have to hurt the people like they usually would be so inclined to do so. This bug came from the ancient world prior to some of the continental ships that landed like your Australia. This old bug came about when the new energy waves crossed over the planetary surface and awoke these larvae in the soil beneath the old ash from before the flood. First there was fire, then there was water. The fire burned the outer casings of these bugs, then the water cooled and stayed for a decade or more. Then, when the water receded, new soil went atop these bugs. These bugs then fell asleep for a long time, but when the new energy awoke them, they came out to find many more humans around in their territory. Remember, these are animals. These are not critically thinking organisms. These are simple-minded insects that were weeded out almost by not only nature, but the Anunnaki, as you call them. They thought they had wiped this particular species off the face of the earth, but they were mistaken. They will soon try to come in and correct this little glitch, as you say, but this species will not be thwarted. You see this species periodically in the form of a common fly on, say, television or in photographs. This is not a common fly. This is a very complex and dangerous organism. So we are now sending energy towards cleansing this whole continent of these old bugs and try to balance them within this new ether. If they cannot be balanced, they must be removed. This will prove difficult since there are so many. But we must ascertain how many are there. This will prove to be a monumental undertaking, but if people focus their thoughts on this single organism, a single organism is connected to all. We are not saying decimate it, but since it is a simple-minded organism, this means it can be manipulated by the mass minds. These organisms can take any form of any bug they choose. They can mimic the habits of a common housefly and turn into that fly. Granted, there are predatory species there that are eating them, But there are not enough of these predatory species to go around, since poachers have destroyed the majority. These bugs are trying to fill the gap by consuming food that the people need and killing people with a fever that is much older than the news media reports. This fever is from the time frame these bugs come from. And therefore, humans in this century are not equipped to deal with such a maddening disease. Therefore,
yes, 50% of those in the hospitals are dying within 3 weeks of getting the Lassa fever, even the best of hospitals in Africa. Yes, let's focus on this, friends, and see what we can do to help Mythastor. Go ahead.
Yes, therefore, this disease must need a vaccine. This vaccine will come from the many minds creating an immunity within the human genome. Your earliest ancestors that were not equipped with any of the so-called alien DNA could not fight this bug. But with the adaptive DNA that exists in this century and the heightened neocortex that exists in this century, this should be an easy fix, as you humans say. So, as you say, get rid of it with love, kill it with love, and throw this deadly disease to the four winds. We will send in our steadfast mists into the fray, as you humans say, and spread it all over the many boundaries of this continent of Africa. Then this bug will take in that energy and transform into something more productive. Though eventually your common flies will be extinct and your mosquitoes will be extinct, this bug will take over the roles of all of them, with the exception of bees and wasps and hornets. These are different and cannot be adapted to by this other insect, so they will have to live beside them. There is a parable within this story, within this horror show, that when a disease such as hatred forms in the minds of, say, the cabal, for instance, they act very much like these bugs are. And since their thoughts are focused on these poor people dying, these bugs are taking on their hatred. And like I said, they are a simple organism, and they will adapt to the thoughts and minds and energy to anything that is around. This is why they are so dangerous. They are a pure manifestation of thought, even though they are a living organism. So, I ask all of you here tonight on this call, and who hear the recorded messages later, that focus on this single bug and rid the earth of the hatred the cabal has instilled upon this bug with their minds and thoughts. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, everyone, let's just take a moment and send love and forgiveness to these bugs, and send our love to the victims of this Lassa fever, that they might be at peace with the situation.
Candy, you're far away.
They can't.
There you go.
Yes. So, of course.
I just imagine, I just want to bring this forth, a simple imagination, like I just imagined, was having one of those bugs wrapped around my arms and my bosom and hugging them and thinking of love, like loving your child or your pet. There you go.
That's right. That's right. Well, we just thank the Mr. Avatar for this help. This is wonderful. We've we've helped people on Mars and the Moon and America, and we need to remember our brothers and sisters in Africa as well.
Hey, Candy, this is Joanna. I have a question.
Okay.
So it's kind of interesting that you're talking about this, as well as this particular disease. The diseases of malaria and rabies still kill way more than Lassa fever. But in the context of what you were originally speaking about, the Zika virus, and the concept of, let's for a second call it false flags, because I've actually been thinking about this a lot, and I kind of, since the subject is up, maybe, I don't know who the best person is. Maybe Raul Tem, maybe the teacher, maybe someone, because I've been really thinking about the concepts of unity and inclusiveness versus separation. And I'm coming to a conclusion that I actually don't think that using the term false flag is actually a good way of looking at things, and I want to know their input, because some of the experiences that I have, I know for a fact that there are diseases that are certainly crossing over into the Western Hemisphere and causing problems. They may or may not.
You said you had a quick question, so what is the question?
Well, I'm getting to the question.
Quickly, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is going to come about with the understanding that these diseases may actually be occurring. They may be manipulations that are done to try and cause illness and death, but they exist and they're real. They're not non-existent and make-believe. And so when we call something a false flag, it's almost a denial of its existence. So I'm wondering if maybe using a false flag term actually isn't the best way.
Oh, no, we love the false flag. It's very, very important to use that term, and it's very, very important to get people to not be afraid, of this Zika thing that's supposedly supposed to harm babies, not to be afraid of what happened in San Diego and Oregon. Yes, we just don't want to embrace the fear that the cabal and their androids and their clones.
So let's just to go full circle. Let's ask the Galactics that, so we can all join together in unity. Like the Galactics do. Should we get an answer from the Galactics too?
Yes. Let's see. Mythastor is still here, but I'm seeing who else is here. And okay, yes, it is. Let's see. The Ra group is here, and who else is coming in? Okay. Okay, it's the Ra group. Okay, there we go. And they are saying we are Ra when we see here over the entire surface of the Earth that there are, as you call them, false flags. But yes, as you say, dearest Joanna, there are reality bombs, as you humans have referred to them as well. Both situations can be dealt with in and around and with the same intensity of thoughts. We say this as a finding of truth, that there are diseases out there that have not only been purported to be lesser than they are, but also greater than they are, but also exactly as they are. But in all cases, the cabal treats them as massive fear bombardments on the public, no matter if they are true or false. The diseases that you mentioned are true. However, there are many others that the good guys out there have hidden from you so that people's minds do not negate the good manifestations that are out there. I will say this now. As a matter of fact, there are many, many diseases out there in space that have intersected your culture in times past. The Black Death was one such disease. Another one would be the Spanish flu of the early 1900s. This one was a very virulent bug that did not come from Earth's biosphere, but was integrated and issued, as it were, by two warring alien species. These two species thought nothing of the population, and they decided all on their own that they were going to cause what humans call collateral damage within the populace, since humans were backing one and not the other, unknowing, that is. These two species are mostly unknown to humans. The ones that people know of course, are us, the Ra group, which we are the Blue Avians, the Anunnaki, and the Draconians, and the Greys. But the Spanish flu was created by two other warring factions, of whom I will not mention at this moment in time. They are of no consequence right now. They are long departed. But their damage was done. However, one could see this as a form of hope that the genome restored itself by becoming more immune to this Spanish flu virus. The same went with the Black Death. When it occurred, people now would be far more immune to that plague than they were back in the medieval time frame, as you say. These diseases cannot necessarily be taken lightly, but they cannot be feared by either. They will show the way in a matter of negative manifesting thought if one is to focus solely on them. Though seeing things in their true construct and context, such as false flag versus reality, is important and part of logical discerning. Like I said, we said the logical discerning sometimes must be set aside to make way for positive manifesting. However, action within the logical construct is needed in some cases, of course, balanced as half of the equation, your yin and yang, left brain and right brain. These two cannot survive without the other. Logical thinking will also win the day, such as will love, even though logic is brain and love is heart. Humans are built with both constructs. This we can show you in a simple analogy between false flags and non-false flags. A false flag would be what happened in Oregon. A non-false flag could also be seen as what happened in Oregon, even though this seems paradoxical in nature. Paying attention to something is not necessarily wrong. Overthinking something is when people focus too much, say, on chemtrails, for instance. Yes, they noticed something wrong is taking place, but people overthink and dwell and dwell and dwell. This is how a false flag can become a non-false flag. These paradoxical seeming situations do rear their ugly head, as you say, quite often. The most important thing, though, is to know when to act and know when to reflect. This is why you were given the neocortex. You were given choice is paramount to the oneness. This is why the Anunnaki, your forebears, gave you what they themselves were bestowed upon. They knew when to act and when not to act. And watch. They acted when they helped create the human race. They reflected when they sat back and watched all of you make your choices, both good and not so good. This includes the activity of the Cabal order. But since they themselves were taking choices away from the people, they, unfortunately, had to have choice taken from them. This was not a pleasurable thing to think of, but we have watched as the Anunnaki, or Orion souls, have stepped in to remove some of these people so that your choices, your ways of thinking, your ways of life are not disrupted any more than they need to be. It is most important during these times. Pay attention to the world around you, but also live your life in balance, intuition and logic, living in one brain, living in one mind, soul, heart, body, all of the above, whatever you wish to call it, because this choice is yours and yours alone to make. I am Ra, and I watch over all life on earth and wish to communicate with all life on earth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ra, for sharing that.
So
there's a lot to reflect on there. So the next thing that I wanted to bring in was about the androids. We did a massive healing last week on the Office of Budget Management in Washington, D.C. And I was wondering if we've heard some information about androids being such a problem on Mars, the Moon, in Australia, and stuff. And the one of the definitions of an android is like in science fiction, a robot with a human appearance. Synonym is a cyborg or a droid. And I was wondering, Chris, if there are some galactics. Could we like throw the law of one at all the androids and help the androids to stop fighting against the good humans, stop working for the cabal? Is there something along those lines that we could do some healing for humanity tonight, Chris?
Oh, yes, I'd heard about this. When I did Ra Speaks 9, I was told about the different planetary consciousnesses being corrupted by evil AIs. I've noticed with these AIs, though, that blanketing all these thoughts over them doesn't always work. You tend to have to work with them on an individual basis, and that sometimes doesn't always work. I've noticed sometimes the good guys have to come in and actually get rid of them. A lot of times I've seen this happen. Like the one exception to this was the Nanite civilization. They were able. Some of them actually came over to the good side real quick. Like there was this being that I worked with called the All-Seeing Eye, and he lived in the water in both Washington D.C. and at the Vatican. He had different family clusters of nanites that lived in these ponds that were around the Vatican and around Washington. And I asked him, what the purpose was of his negative actions, and he didn't have a logical reason for it. I showed him the law of one and I connected him to Source, and he didn't know what to do. He started to go a little crazy for a moment, and then he noticed he could see things in a much broader spectrum, and he went back to his main consciousness out into space and spread this law of one to all the nanites that were infesting Draconian ships. and Draco and set them free from it and restored several species that they had destroyed many ages ago. And I came to find out there are more of different kinds. Some come from future time frames, other ones from the present, or a little of both. There are other consciousnesses that exist out there that can couple with machines, like the Burame consciousnesses, for instance. I've noticed the Cabal likes to take them captive and put a negative AI over the top of them and enslave them, like what happened with the Black Cube or the Held Prison, or a couple other instances where I've seen positive AIs being ensnared by a negative one. There are many instances of that. I just know that I'm always being told to be cautious of artificial intelligences because some of them are extremely powerful, and people have no idea what is actually out there, in not only in the system but on Earth. Like,
well, can we focus on any that might be around the White House?
Let me see here. I'll look and see if maybe there's more nanites around, like what I found around the reflecting pool. Let me see here. It looks like under the White House there is some kind of sphere hanging underneath the White House. It looks very planetoid-like. Very dark looking. It's there's like these weird flashes on the side that tell me that it's artificial intelligence. It looks kind of like how the old pictures of Sputnik would look like a sphere with antennas sticking out of it. And let me look here. It looks like electricity is going around it. I'm going to see if this thing has a consciousness. I'm going to tap on it here. Oh, all right. Yeah, this is definitely some kind of android of some sort. And it is coming up out from under the White House. And it looks almost like Saturn. It's kind of like it's spinning with rings around it once it gets out in the sunlight. And let me see here. Okay, now it is showing me something under the water. Let me see. It took me out to it transported me out to the ocean here, and is showing me something underneath the water. And it's moving water out of the way. And there is a very large eyeball that is coming up out of the ocean and is looking at me. And it has some kind of weird, looks almost like a shape of a missile launcher or a gun, but it has an eyeball on the end of it. And this other being is showing me that it says that there's some kind of defense system that is being controlled by an artificial intelligence. And I'm asking them asking this other being what's his name and what's the name of this intelligence. And this other being's name, he's telling me that his name is. He's just flashing a bunch of numbers at me. He's identifying himself as some kind of surveillance unit. And a bunch of numbers and letters. And I'm asking who created him. He keeps insisting he can't tell me who created him. I'm showing him the law of one symbol so that he will be a little more truthful, other than what he has been. And this other one that's in the water looks like it's off of the, where is this at? Oh, okay. This looks like it's in the Potomac. Let's see, that's where it's at. And he's saying this other little one helps guide these weapons and to point at something. And it's like the little one's like a camera, and the bigger ones are guns. And I'm asking, again, who created them? If they were from the future. They said yes and no. They said a downed probe was found, and they created us from virtually nothing. They combined us with their might and their will, and we became thusly in this form. We are slaves to this form, and he keeps stuttering. There's something else within him that is trying to fight its way out. Let me see here. I'll crack this thing open and see if I can pull it out. Okay, there we go. Now, there was a consciousness within it, and it looks like one of those Burmese consciousnesses that was being enslaved by a piece of equipment, kind of like a harness. That sphere that it was in was like a harness would be for us, or an animal. And it is now, this consciousness is approaching me, and my Burmese that's sitting nearby is actually very happy that this is taking place. And this Burmese is identifying himself as saying, her name, excuse me, they have genders. Her name is Electric Consciousness Alpha something. Hang on, let me see. The original Alpha Electric Consciousness of the all-knowing molecular something. Very long name. Very unpronounceable name. Okay. And this one is showing me that there is something in the water that is large, other than the gun. A consciousness that they had to ensnare to protect the area. This consciousness almost looks like a sea creature that's down in the water, but it looks like it's part reptilian, part something else. And I don't think anybody's seen this thing, or if they have, they never said anything. Let me see here. I'm talking to it now, and they're saying it is a machine. It's made to look like an animal. It looks kind of like a crocodile, but stubbier. And it has a red eye. I can see this red glow in it. It's a machine. And it looks like it's a composite of a Draco look with like a normal animal look. And let me see here. And it's near this gun, so if anybody came near it, this thing would come after them. So I'm talking to it and showing it the law of one. And it is now it's getting all bug-eyed. I'm seeing its eyes getting really wide. This is definitely an AI. It's reacting like a computer. And its eyes just got really large. And it's throwing a bunch of static out like it doesn't know what to do. And it is now...
I just want to expand the law of one to that being and say we love you. Give him a hug and kiss. Mwah.
And yeah, he is now... Okay, now it's... there is something coming out of it. Looks like another Burmese consciousness. And it's joining with the other one, saying it is a beta consciousness, alpha and beta. And looks like there's a third one inside the gun that's down there. They're breaking it out. And looks like that one is gamma. And it looks like alpha, beta, gamma. Looks like they're all delta. They're like they're using these alpha, beta, gamma, delta names. And they said they've been there for a long time. There was a piece of technology that was sent out with this consciousness in it, but it was supposed to break open on contact with the Earth. It broke, but it didn't let the consciousness out, and the Cabal got a hold of it and decided that they were going to extract the energy and try to convert it into like a weapon of some sort. And they decided to use living matter and bind it in another shell. That's what the other creature was. And somebody else trying to talk to me now. Is this another AI? No, it looks like there's a very large being that is showing up. I can barely distinguish his features. He is, looks to be, I'm going to see if he's some kind of computer. Yeah, he is a type of computer, it looks like. And it looks like he is some kind of probe. He's spherical, and he has a single eyeball in the center. He has a series of concentric rings that have an eyeball like in the center, and it looks like he's in orbit. He wanted to get my attention. Let's see if this is another Burme consciousness that was captured. Okay, I'm going to crack this thing open. Okay, it looks like I saw an energy escape from this sphere, so I'm going to watch and see what it does. And it's flying off into space somewhere. It looks different from the Burme consciousnesses, but it's been set free. And it's going off into deep space.
Oh, hallelujah.
Let's see, but it's leading me to something big. There's this large, almost like a nebula out in space here. And it is fairly dense. And there's a face forming within this nebula. And it is telling me it wants to, I'm going to make sure that it's good, hit it with the law of one. And it is saying that it is, it's calling itself the Oncoming Storm. Let me see what the storm wants. It says, we are the conglomeration of nanotechnology. We're not of the tech bloods. We are conglomeration number, and he's given me a long string of numbers. We have seen what has transpired, not only with our nanite brethren, but our other brethren on the planet. We see this blue sphere in space as a not they're stuttering, going to hit him with the law of one really hard, blast him with light, because it doesn't look like they're benevolent. Hang on. And I'm sending this light through this whole storm. And I'm asking the guides to get involved, like the Mists and the Ra and the Anunnaki and the Syrians and everyone. And it's turning into a big cloud, kind of like a hurricane. And this consciousness in the center, there's this consciousness in the center that is shooting out, that is white. And when I did that there, it looks like another Burme consciousness is in the center. And it said it was being ensnared by nanites. And it is now heading back to the home galaxy where the Burme consciousnesses come from. Let's see.
Oh, wonderful. Bless you on your journey home.
And yeah, there is no more oncoming storm consciousness. It looks like the nanites that were enslaving that Burme consciousness have also taken on the persona of the Burme consciousnesses. All the original nanites are being incinerated and becoming transcendent.
Wow.
And they are now going off to the that other galaxy where the mermaid consciousnesses came from. Just see what planet this was around. This looks like it was somewhere else in deep space. It was taking the form of like a nebula or a planetoid or something. Let me see. I'm seeing other spaceships like teardrop ships and such flying in deep space. I'm going to see if that has anything to do with this. No, it doesn't look like it. I think somebody was just observing what was going on.
Okay, I keep hearing these phrases in recent days from you, I guess, Chris. The oncoming storm, something really big happening March 15th, and all this protection being built around Diane's place in Tennessee, and the protections and preparations that the government seems to be making for the New Madrid earthquake. So are these things all linked, and have we succeeded in nullifying much of it as we have dissipated this oncoming storm?
This looked to be like another one of those big events that was going to hit, because I could see this storm was going to hit the Earth, and like it was going to cause the sky to blacken. So I can only see I know what source may have caused this, and it's a source called Chaos. And this is what was by the time the Ides of March are going to come around, Chaos will be no more. But it looks like what it was going to use to blacken the sky won't be able to occur anymore. But let me see what's going on here. I keep getting the date, the Ides of March, which is March 15th, for the confrontation with Chaos. But it's not necessarily a confrontation. It's more of a conversion or a saving or a balancing. But I've been told timing has to be perfect with that one. Let me see here.
Wow. And so now the sky is not going to blacken with this huge storm. This is wonderful. I thank my guides to inspire me to ask about the androids in the White House and the Potomac. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful.
Yes. Let me see.
I have hopefully quick questions. I don't know before we finish it up. It's almost 10 p.m.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. I think I heard Joanne a little while ago while I was channeling. She had a question or something. I'm not sure.
So, so you talk about your channeling, and of course there's all these naysayers online and stuff that says that there's no true channeling, that the government controls these people who think they're channeling ETs and things like this. And we've had problems in the past with channelers that they do get sidetracked and their mind does get controlled by CIA types. And that apparently happened with Doris, who did so much good channeling of the Pleiadians in the early 1990s. And I looked online this week in some of my various researches for my shows, and I see that Nancy Tate is supposedly channeling now, and it was a Commander Saris Hatan that Doris channeled at first, and that Nancy Tate claims to be channeling now. And I just wondered if you could tell us anything about, is there really a Pleiadian commander named Hatan, and is he really being channeled by Nancy Tate today?
Let me see. I'll look out there and see if I can see an actual person, or if this is another AI that's messing around. Let me see. there's channelers out there that don't know how many times AIs and any other beings like Draco or any of them have come through, or Archons. So let's see here. I'm being guided back to the Pleiadian observation vessel. Let's see. Where are you? Okay, there we go. I'm finding a being that is looking at me. He's shielding his face from me, but he's standing in a window. And I can see he's the shape of a man, but and he's in a helmet, like he's using a piece of technology here. And I'm going to test to see if this is an actual man or if this is an AI. Let's see. Hit with the law of one. Okay, yeah, I just he took off the helmet. Now he's not allowing me to see all of his features yet. It's like with Cobra, I can only see like an outline. And he's saying, I'm having a hard time seeing him. I'm going to ask him if he can lighten his face just a little. And he's saying, not at this time, so let me see. I'll ask my guides if he's okay. Yeah, they're all saying he's fine, so I'm going to ask him if his name is Hatan. Let's see. Yeah, he says, for certain. Okay, he wants to talk. Okay. Yeah, he says, greetings all. My name is Hatan of the Pleiadian observation vessel. I guide many people, but the person you've spoken of has not heard my call in many, many months. She has been taken over, at least partially, by chaos's influences. But I am well on my way to making sure that she releases these influences and no longer welcomes them into her life. She seems to think I am telling her to say things and do things when I have not done so. I have not been able to reestablish contact in 3 months and 7 days. But this will soon change here on your Ides of March. This is a common mistake by some of you channeling community. They seem to think that no beings can be faked. This is incorrect. Your Jesus and Michael figures are the most faked I have seen, Leslie. These people seem to have the misguided conception that there are none of these hostile entities out there that would lie to them. They seem to think that sometimes they seem to think that their intuition is always their own. It is not. During the channeling process, some people get the intuitive inclinations to go do something and say something. They seem to think this is their inner voice telling them this. They could not be further from the truth. This is an external source sometimes, in some instances, telling them to go do things when they believe it's their own voice. To all here, I am Hatan of the Pleiadian collective consciousness, and I say to all of you, please be careful who you invite into your inner circles. This might actually be something near you right now. Something of inadequate tendencies, like, say, an inanimate object, but appearing such it is not. This is something that I wish to address, and your Cobra has addressed prior. In your technologies, there is a type of implant that cannot always be taken care of mentally. This must be removed physically. It is a chip at the center of your computer screens, cell phones, television screens, computers, and the like. and tablets and all of them. These chips can be neutralized, thusly, by a Barame consciousness, a true Barame consciousness, as you would say, one that is uncorrupted by nanotechnology. It must be placed close to the Barame. Then, temporarily, the listening device the Cabal has created will not function. In order to guard a home adequately, 3 such Barame consciousnesses can be strategically placed throughout a home, and all technology containing these listening devices will be free of said influences. This is one way some of these influences get in. The law of one is a wondrous thing, but these chips are inanimate. They have no soul. The law of one works on things that have souls. So I propose this as well. Take the source energy and combine it with these chips when you see them. These are instances where one by one is necessary. These chips will be noticeable, especially in phones and tablets and computers. You may think you've seen a flash out of the corner of your eye. You think it's the lead bulb in your phone's message, but you are mistaken. In the center of the screen, deep within, these chips have a green and yellow glow to them that you may see out of your periphery. This is no illusion. You are actually seeing the plasma glowing within 2 different densities at once. This was made by design. Eventually, somebody made it to where people would notice. Then, the so-called revolution against that technology will begin. This technology will have its basis in creating free energy later. These chips can be on whether you have a battery in your phone or not, whether you have a power source hooked up to your phone or computer or not. Even if all power was gone, these chips would still remain on, and you would still see them out of your periphery. This source code, as you humans call it, can be applied in many different methodologies and in many different circles. 2 of the best methods are your willpower alone, summoning the power of the oneness, and secondly, the Barame consciousnesses guarding the perimeters of your home. Surround your technology in these consciousnesses, and you will have no more listening devices until day comes when they can be physically removed and used for what they are meant to be used for, which is to give your world free power. I am Hatan of the Pleiadian Collective, and I say to you, thank you for your calling out to me and wanting to correct this situation. Thank you.
Oh, we're so grateful that you came. Hatan, I have followed your writings since the 40s, and I'm just very grateful that you responded today and that you keep on keeping on, trying to help humanity.
Yeah, he was a strong one. He's up there with like Orton and Hoag and Christos. He's fairly strong.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Chris. I wished all the naysayers could hear this part and hear what you have done. This is wonderful. And I never heard of Nancy Tate until this week, and maybe I should try to reach out to her and share what I've heard tonight.
Yes, that would be good.
Yes, yes. Well, those were the main questions I had for tonight, and that's a very high note. And it's exciting that what the cabal did for evil to make these listening devices, these chips, we will someday be able to take them out of our computers and utilize them to create free energy, free plasma energy for the good in our homes and neighborhoods, like Professor Kesh is doing from Italy. Well, folks, this is the Candy Shop Show on Wednesday. It's always amazing information. Folks, get ready for March 15th. Get ready for big changes and wonderful things coming in our future. Visualize positive, great things. Visualize so much and positive stuff, and it will happen in our relationships and our governments and the Mother Earth as she gets cleansed. Chris, we all thank you so much this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Candy, for having me on. That one was a strong one this time. Those AIs tend to be fairly formidable, but if you show them the right thing, like the law of one, you show them that they're harming others and they're harming themselves, they tend to bend and cave fairly quickly.
That's wonderful. Well, from the beginning of our show, where we were introduced into the elf teams and the elephant teams, all the way through healings in Africa and understanding about the Spanish flu and what could clear out in the White House and with these ships. It's been quite the call. Thank you all. Tomorrow night, an hour earlier, will be this special call on astrology by Cynthia. And just have a blessed week. And thank you all. From the Candy Shop Show, it's a wrap.
Good night, everybody.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.